pick up where we are. So welcome everyone. We're here to talk about life design. What is that? And you'll see at the bottom here, it says a creative way to unleash new adventures. And that's really what we're going to talk about today. We'll talk high level about what life design is. We'll do a couple little playing around exercises. And then I'll end with just some contact information about me, Melissa O'Hara. If you want to get in touch with me afterwards, if you have any question, then feel free to do that. So with that, let's just talk a little bit around my background. My name is Melissa O'Hara. My company is O'Hara Solutions Group. I made the bold choice, actually using this life design process, to leave my full-time gig, which was at Travelers. I left 1 week before COVID started last year, and I have started my own company during a pandemic, and it has been nothing but fantastic. So we'll talk a little bit more about my journey through the conversation today. I am a business professional. I've spent over 30 years working in the business, so to speak. I love helping motivate and inspiring others. And a lot of them say even my personal journey of having the courage to take that bold step, do something different, has been inspiring for folks. Right now, I am an expert facilitator and top talent coach. I work with both individuals and I work in a corporate setting. And one of the things I think that differentiates me is because I spent time in the business and doing real work, I can combine very unique tools and techniques from a lot of different fields and disciplines. I've worked in everything from product management to product development, human resources. And that's one of the things I do is really look at the holistic approach guiding clients. You're not your work person or your home person. A lot of who we are and how we show up shows in every aspect of our lives. And so trying to see new possibilities is really a lot of what we're going to talk about today. So that's where we're going to start to go next. So what is life design? Life design, the way I think about it, is helping you do more, be more, to bring your unique gifts and talents to life. And what it does, and one of the things I like about it, is it helps you take really small steps to help lead into maybe a big, bold future. And what I love about that is a lot of people say to me a couple things, Melissa, I'm not really sure what my unique gifts and talents are or what I want to do. Or even if I'm clear about it, I'm not sure how to move forward, or it's a big pit in my stomach of making that big leap. And that's why life design is so powerful. What it is it's based on design thinking, which is actually a business-oriented problem-solving approach that allows you to be very creative, allows you to design new possibilities and test them out by coming up with really small pieces or ways to experiment. I love the try it before you buy it. So my own personal journey, like I said, I didn't just go one day from, oh, I work for Travelers and make a wonderful salary and have this thing, and I'm just going to quit tomorrow and start my own company. I was able to really test it out, find out what I wanted to do, and feel really emboldened by my own choices. And the one thing is it's collaborative to create unexpected solutions. So playing with other people and getting ideas. You'll see a quote down here from one of my most recent clients. And I think most of us are women. There'll be men attending the event today. But what I find, especially for women, this phrase of, and this is their language, it kept me from feeling like a victim instead of owning my own life. And that's what I hear from a lot of people. They feel like life is being done to them, as opposed to when life design is you become in the driver's seat of that. And now this person felt like they had a decision screen. They felt like they had more permission to do what's important. And that to me is the power of life design. So what it is it's a process, it's a toolkit, it's a navigational system. But here are the mindsets that are essential to be successful at this kind of design thinking. The first one is curiosity. So how do you look at things with wonder? Like kind of when you're a kid again, with that wonder of, oh, I wonder how, as opposed to judgment. It requires awareness. So really not, I say, what do you want to do versus what do you think others want you to do, right? Really that inner awareness about what's important to you. This bias to action doesn't mean just jumping willy-nilly, but saying, instead of sitting here between my temples and being like, I wonder if I would like this or not, you're going to go out and try things. It involves reframing or shifting maybe a perspective on things. That radical collaboration, which is playing with other people and asking people to be like, hey, can you help me out a little bit? And you'll hear more about that when you hear Lucinda talk about the big ask later on. Radical collaboration is asking for help. And it certainly takes an element of courage. As I said, for me to leave my full-time gig and start was definitely something that took a variety of courage. So with that, let's talk about the 5 elements of the life design journey. The first one is reflecting. Who are you and what's really important? For some people, they do a lot of self-reflection, and this becomes pretty easy for them. It may just be articulating it and putting it down. And for other people, these are questions that they really haven't thought of, or perhaps haven't thought of for the season of life that they're in. So I hear a lot of like, well, before I had kids, I might have known this, but maybe after kids or pre-retirement, I'm not really sure what's important to me anymore. And that's a really key element of the journey. The second one is identifying a point of view of how to improve your experience. So what's holding you back? What are those must-have elements of your life moving forward? The third element of the journey is imagine. It's looking at clues you've gathered by reflecting and identifying, and then saying, what do I really want to do? How can I create options about what my future is? And one of the things that's really powerful about this, I think a lot of people say, well, what's my purpose? And when they say that, it's almost like there's a singular answer, like they have to find their purpose and it's just one thing. What's great about the imagine step is, what are all the ways my gifts and talents could play out? And what it does is it frees up that there's multiple paths moving forward, not just one. The explore part of it is where you break things down. This is the try it before you buy it element of the journey. And choose, it doesn't come at the end. So even though this looks a little linear, it definitely has the opportunity to figure out, how do you make choices that are consistent so that you start to control the life. Again, you're in charge of it as opposed to being it in charge of you. So those are the 5 elements of the life design journey. And for today, we're just going to tiptoe into a couple of them, try them on, and then open it up for questions. So one of the activities that are done in the reflect step of the process is called energy tracking. And we said reflecting is important about really being authentically in touch with who you are and what's important to you. So this is an example of actually my energy tracking. And you'll see that there's above the line, which is adding energy, and below the line, which is draining energy. So here's some examples for me. Meditation is something I do regularly, and that actually adds energy. Speaking engagements like today, and you'll see that that line is even higher than meditation. And so the higher is actually the more energy. Reading is a little bit more solitary activity, but it does rejuvenate me. Facilitating groups, grocery shopping, I actually love that. And even during COVID, masking up, but somehow almost being with other people in a quasi-normal way. Travel, including the planning part of it, I love that. And you'll see the last one is playing games with family, and that's really high. I just love to, it's a combination of family time and playing games. So that's an example of things that give energy to me. On the other end, you'll see things like house cleaning. I probably put that to the last minute if I have to do it. Working with person X, you'll see that I haven't put a name in here, but there is a particular person that comes to mind to me that even anticipating working with them, I just get a sense of dread. Oh, I can't believe I have to work with them. Financial planning, doing stuff like that, administrative tasks of owning my own business. I'll do it, but it kind of sucks me dry. And interacting with negative people, I've noticed what a drain it has on me, even doing that. So this is an example of a very simple activity that you can do. And what I find for my clients, they do it over a period of time, and it really creates clarity on those things that add or drain activity. And so now what we're going to do is an activity for you. So here's what you're going to do. It's very simple. If you can grab a piece of paper, whatever you have in front of you. And what you're going to do is just draw a line. And what I'd love you to do is put at least 2 or 3 things that you know about yourself that add energy. And you might have the line higher, like I did, remember? So speaking engagements was higher for me than reading. And then 2 or 3 things that drain energy for you. So what I'll do is I'll give you about a minute or so to just jot down 2 or 3 add energy activities and 2 or 3 drain energy activities. For those of you that are just joining, welcome. We're talking about life design, and I'm Melissa O'Hara. I'm your host for this networking session. So we're doing a couple of activities, and then we'll wrap up with a little bit of Q&A at the end. All right. For anyone who is comfortable in sharing, if you want to add into the chat, maybe a plus before an add energy and a minus before a drain energy activity, what are some things that are coming up for you as you're doing a little bit of reflection on this energy tracking activity? So again, if you're comfortable and just want to put a plus or a minus in, we can have a chance to see. All right, so tennis, golf, walking, a lot of walking, exercising, ministering to others, interviewing for top talent, beach days. A minus might be family issues. Yep. Working out, playing with children. It's just noticing all of those things. Housework, so crocheting on the plus, houseworking on the minus, toxic people, obstacles. On the plus side, paying bills. On the negative side, laundry. I actually love laundry. But and again, these are all the things it could be the same exact thing that somebody's typing that's on the minus side that might be a plus side for you, or vice versa. And those are the types of things that this awareness starts to create. And you can see that this activity itself really is just taking 2 or 3 minutes, right? We're just taking a few minutes. But here's the important element of it. It's the reflection part of where might you want to changes on your energy. So again, using my experience on the prior slide, there is one person who I know drains me energy. And what I found by really knowing and understanding that, there'd be emails that would come from this person, and I would tend to do a back and forth. Like I'd want to be right with this person all the time. Well, all that was doing was just draining more of my energy. So why did I need to be right? And so what this very simple activity allows you to do is say, maybe where are the energy boosting things like cooking? Jessica, looking at you, right? Are you doing cooking enough? Are there ways that you might want to do more of that to bring yourself more energy? Or are there things with particular negative sides that you could avoid or control, or maybe have a little bit more choice over that would minimize the draining energy? And that's, again, a powerful, just one minor reflect activity that is part of the life design process. So what I want to do is I want to move into another element of the life design process. As I mentioned in the imagine step, what it does is it allows you to create multiple options of your path forward. Now, in the process, what I usually do is have clients create 3 completely different options of their path forward. So the first one is your current life, but it is if it was on steroids. So if you were to design your current life, what would you want to be more, better, or different about it? Where would you want to have more energy? Where would you want to spend more time? And really articulating what that might look like. Map 2 would be a new path forward. So let's say, for example, you did something different. For me, when I did these activities, my current life, when I was doing it, was actually my full-time job at Travelers. A new path forward was actually starting my own company. That for me is actually now map 1, because that is my current life. It is something that I'm doing. But the one I want to explore today is actually map 3. I call it no limits. And it is, what would you be doing, or might you be doing? What might you be doing if you knew money was no object and you knew no one would judge you or laugh at you? So there's a reason that there's a picture down there on the right-hand side. When I did my first version of my maps, I don't know why, but stand-up comedian was what I had there. And so you will see that is me in the Argyle shirt there, performing at the CT Comedy Theater after I took 8 weeks of improv lessons. So that was not only what was on my map, but it was the experiment that I did in order to see if I liked it or not. So what I'd like to do next is, again, back in the chat, is I'd like you to dream big again. Like some of us, we've forgotten how to dream. And so what I'd like you to do is, what might you do if you knew no one would laugh or judge you and money was no object? So just like me being a stand-up comedian, if you were to dream big, and I'll have you put that in the chat, what might you do if you knew no one would laugh? Money was no object. Awesome, Asher. Acting. A doula, dancing on your own island, right? Travel, cruise director, floral business, traveling the world. And I want you to pay attention. What does it feel like when you're writing that down? For some of you, it might be like exciting and exhilarating. For some of you, it might be scary. It could be any of those things, right? All of those. And so here's the power of this. What the process allows you to do is start to dream big again, to think about what those options are. You're not committing to do it. And then you break it down into small pieces, the experimentation element of it. So again, back to me, the explore part of it was, just because I put stand-up comedian on a piece of paper didn't mean I was going to quit my day job and become a stand-up comedian. So the smallest amount, I did 8 weeks for 2 hours, and I actually performed at the CT Comedy Theater. And what I learned from that experience was, I don't like being funny on demand. Like when they say, ready, go, and here's a prompt. And it was too nerve-wracking for me. What I learned, or it kind of relearned, is I love being on stage. I don't mind it. I don't mind being in front of big groups or audiences. And what I also learned is, while that element of comedy isn't what I really like, I do like making people laugh, and I do like storytelling. And so those were things out of that experience that I was able to obtain and to help focus. And so this process is more like when you go to the eye doctor. Is it more like this or less like this? I have people who do an experiment. At the end of it, they're like, oh, I do not want to do that. Isn't that amazing? You did a very little amount of work, and now you know not what you don't want to do, which is just as powerful as getting clarity about what you do want to do. So with that, I want to make sure we have a chance to answer questions today. So I'm going to skip that activity. And I'd like you to think about this designer's approach. So I'm going to open it up now for questions. And as you thinking about this, this kind of life design approach, what questions do you have? You can either put them in the chat, or you can just unmute yourself and go ahead. So who has a question about life design?
Hi, my name is Desiree. I have a question. When you're talking about energy drainers, is there any really good tips you can give on how to identify which ones might weigh heavier than others?
Yeah, so here, one of the things that I do with folks, Desiree, is I ask them to do almost more of a real-time journaling. So once you become a detective, remember I said curiosity is one of the first designer mindsets. You become curious about yourself. So here's what happens in during your day. Once you even talked about this, you're going to see like, oh, like you're going to feel your body start to go. You might feel a pit of your stomach. You might do a lot of things, and that is really where you start to pay attention to it. When you feel even a bigger drain, you're going to know that that line was a lot lower. So for example, me working with people is usually on the plus side. There's something around that one person which also allowed me to be more curious. What about this one person working with puts me on the negative side as opposed to the positive side? And so, and then I became a little bit more attuned of what might be triggering my negative reaction with that person more so than others. So if you can become a little bit more of a detective, different people do this in different ways. Some people like to journal or write it down. This one person I was coaching with, she's just going to do Post-its. She's going to keep them on her desk. And when it's a plus, she's just going to write down what's happening. And when it's a minus, so she can do that more real time. But those are some ways to track that, Desiree.
Thank you.
Yeah. What other questions does anyone have?
Melissa, I did notice there are some in the chat. I think 3 or 4 people posted.
Sure. So Tanya, yes, I do remote coaching. And to let you know, there are 3 sessions of coaching with me in the silent auction. So if anyone's interested in doing this work, there is actually one of the things in the silent auction. All right. So Liz, here's the beautiful thing. When you can work the experiments into what you're already doing, what it does is it actually creates, I'll call it a deliberateness or a focus about it. So for example, when I was doing coaching, I might pay attention a little bit more to what are my biggest questions. So here's an example. I worked with one person and they had some questions. It's actually my son. So my son, 24, going through this process, did coaching. He's in a master's program, but there was something missing for him. And how did he work this into what he was doing? What he did was he started by doing something really, really small. So he was in a grad program. He was deciding what he wanted to do. His map 3, his big bold map, was actually becoming a professional poker player. So what was the least amount of time he could do that? And how could he fit it in with his busy schedule? So what he started doing was actually online poker playing. I'll fast forward and give you the answer. What he wound up doing is after the coaching, after running experiments, he decided to leave his grad program and he is now a full-time professional poker player. And that was not done. And the reason I could support that as a mom, right? So many moms might be like, really? The reason I felt good about it is because it was thoughtful and it was by choice. Remember that last element of the process is choice. It was done with informed decisions. And now it's been 8 months in that role. And he is on his own, independent, making money, happy. I think that's all any parent, at least I could say, would want for their children. And so what I say is, how do you break it down into even the smallest piece possible? I had one woman who was thinking about applying for a job, and she said, oh, and you all know, right? Getting your resume up to date and applying online and getting ready for interviews, it can be overwhelming. She looked up the company and watched 3 YouTube videos, 15 minutes in total, and realized that's not a company I want to work for. So in 15 minutes, she had her answer. And that's the power of these experiments is what are your biggest questions that you're uncertain of? And what's the smallest amount of work you could put into answering yes or no about that question? That's how you can fit them in. And a lot of times I find people can fit them into what they're already doing day in and day out, just a little bit more focus and deliberateness. We probably have time for just one more question and then we're going to wrap up for today. Thanks, Liz. Any last questions before we wrap up today? All right. Well, today was just a little bit of a flavor. Sherry, let me work with the folks in POP. I don't know. The recording of this, I will believe, is going to be available. I'll ask about the materials, and they'll go out in a follow-up afterwards. But you have my information here, so if you want to, oh, and Caitlin, thank you. There's a direct link back to the program as well. Here's my contact information. If you have any questions at all, feel free to email me, text me, or call me at that number. And as I mentioned, there's also something in the silent auction if anyone is interested in participating or doing some individual coaching. Any last questions? All right. Well, thank you so much for your time today, for coming, for being here at the Power of the Purse, which is just such an amazing event supporting economic mobility for people in our area. And we'll give you about 5 minutes to get between here and our keynote, which starts right at noon. So thank you so much for being here, everyone. And thanks for coming to POP.